We share. Oh, take a ride with me.
So the theme of this talk is, where there is a will, there is a way. It's very similar to what Jesus said. If you have faith like a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from this location to that location. But you see, faith is not an abstract thing. I'm trying to talk about where there is a will, there's a way. Of course, there's an element of faith in that. Faith is not abstract. Faith cannot just occur in a vacuum. You have to have a reason for your faith. I'm going to demonstrate where there is a will, there is a way, which is a popular axiom. I'm going to demonstrate it through a true life story that happened in 2014. I'll say it's. I'll just give you the title: "The Unveiling of the World's Largest Cassava Cake," and it happened right here in Nigeria. Like I said, faith is not abstract, and that is the first nugget. You will find nuggets as I give this talk. You will find nuggets within the talk itself. The first nugget is faith is not abstract, like I've said. So where did the idea for the world's largest cassava cake come from? It just didn't come from nowhere. What happened was that in 2010, Nigeria was celebrating her, I think, Golden Jubilee, 50th year anniversary. Most people that are watching may not be Nigerians, but for those of you that don't know Nigeria, we got our independence in 1960. So by 2010, we were 50 years as a nation. So there was this celebration of our Golden Jubilee. So I was invited by one Victor Walsh, who was the CEO of IMR, Integrated Management Resources. I was invited and appointed as the Chief Operating Officer of a project. So I was both Chief Operating Officer of the project and the company, but it was for the sake of the project that I was appointed. So to cut a long story short, we attempted to bake in Nigeria the world's largest cake. Not cassava cake now, the world's largest cake. Remember, I'm trying to establish a quick fact, which is that faith is not abstract. Faith has to come from somewhere. And don't forget our theme, where there is a will, there is a way. I'm going to demonstrate how I thought of something and it came to pass, not because I even knew how I was going to achieve it, and which is the main thought here, that when you have faith, you don't even need to know how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. Faith is just there. It is almost like magic, and this story is going to convince you that faith is a real thing, because I'm going to be totally honest. I'm going to tell you my fears and my anxieties and how things just basically worked out even when I wasn't expecting them to. So 2010, we tried to bake the world's largest cake, not cassava cake. Now I keep going back to cassava cake. So this was the world's largest cake. We wanted to make a point. So we wanted to give Nigeria a 65-ton cake. Why 65 ton? Of course, just to cut it short, the largest cake in the world at then was maybe 63 tons. So we just wanted to do something bigger or heavier, because it was all about the weight. So even though we didn't end up baking the world's largest cake, we tried to do something. We tried to get Dangote, Glow to sponsor, but I think we needed more time. That kind of project, you don't do it within 6 months. You don't do it. You could even need 5 years to do it, because the logistics is out of this world to bake that kind of cake, the kind of auditorium you will need and all of that. It was a Guinness World Record attempt. So we didn't get to do it. But one other thing we wanted to do was to count down to our 50th anniversary as a nation. So we came up with a countdown clock, and then we presented that to the President Goodluck Jonathan. Then remember, he came in sometime in 2010. So we presented it to him at the banquet hall of the State House. We organized an event and did that. So it was supposed to count down to the event, that's to our 50th anniversary, and then count down to the unveiling of the world's largest cake too. So though we couldn't do that, but we were able to do the countdown clock, and then everything worked out well. And then we just tried to bring some life to the event, because we just noticed the country was just approaching the 50th anniversary without some, no excitement and all that. So we did that. So that was where the idea for the world's largest cassava cake came from. Since we couldn't do the world's largest cake, after 2010, 2011 and all that, me and my guy, we tried to do one or two things, but just to get a Guinness World Record. That was the whole thing. So around 2013, I started hearing about centenary celebration. centenary celebration. Centenary, of course, is 100 years. Okay, some people were saying that there was amalgamation in 1914, so 2014 was going to make it 100 years. So as a Nigerian, I just thought, okay, let's do something. Now, I'll come to the second nugget. The second nugget about faith is that, or about this whole theme of where there is a will, there is a way, is that when you want to do something, it may be a good idea to tell somebody. So I told my guy, Tony, he's a banker. I don't want to give his full name just to protect his privacy. So I told Tony, I am going to do something to mark Nigeria's centenary celebration. This was 2013. Tony, I'm going to do it. I remember I was in my lounge. He came to visit me with his wife, and I was just pacing up and down. Tony, I must do something. I didn't even know what I was going to do. You see now. So we are talking about where there is a will, there is a way. So this is vague. I didn't even know what I was going to do. It was that feeling like, so how can the centenary just come apart? Because we learned a lot from 2010 when we tried to do. We realized that government didn't even really have a plan. No plan to bring excitement. So it was even our countdown clock that gave Nigeria at 50 secretariat something to hold on to. To even say, oh, let Nigeria do a 50-day countdown to the. So we saw that there was room for lots of things, when it comes to marking events. So I was determined to do something, and I told Tony, I am going to do something. I won't let this centenary pass because it's a 100-year event. Unfortunately, it was about amalgamation. I don't want to go political. I don't want to go sentimental, but you see, I was feeling a bit more enthusiastic about Nigeria than I am now. I must just be honest with you. So because a lot of things are going on now that being a Nigerian, you just have to accept it by faith. And then FATE, faith, also it's your faith, because you are born in Nigeria. But I was more enthusiastic about being a Nigerian then in 2014 than now. So I was like, I was going to do something, and I told Tony. So that's the second nugget. Tell somebody when you have something you want to really do. But if you don't find anybody qualified, because there's a qualification thing, you better tell it to the trees. Just go to the tree or just face the wall and say, look, I'm going to do this. It's even better. But you see, Tony was qualified. Tony was qualified because I had seen Tony as somebody that had faith. So I could tell him such a thing. And let me substantiate that claim. Tony had, how did I meet Tony? Tony was introduced to me by somebody, let me call him a mutual friend, somebody that knew me. I was introduced to Tony as a solutions person. Okay, Tony, you want to do something, meet this guy. He just knows how to make things happen. Tony met me, I think, in 2013. So what was he trying to do then? Tony wanted to do something for the governor of Kano State. According to Tony, the governor of Kano State was doing well. That was Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. And remember, that was his second term. Kwankwaso had a term, and then I think he lost his re-election, and then he came back after, an interregnum, if you like, after 4 years, after a 4-year break. So he said he wanted to do something for Kwankwaso, and I was like, oh, really? So what would that be? He didn't have any idea. He just said, okay, that's why I came to see you. So at the end of the day, we discussed, I remember we met at Transcorp just to talk about this whole thing. At the end of the day, I told Tony that, the best thing you can do, it's not just to pick a page in a major newspaper and then say this, say that. Do something that can outlive the administration. So, and the best thing I could think of was a book. So we actually wrote a book. The title of that book was A Silent Achiever. Kwankwaso was doing a whole lot of things as if he was in a hurry. Now in retrospect, I realized that Kwankwaso had presidential ambitions because he was doing so many things in Kano. He was just doing this. So we titled the book A Silent Achiever, and we met Kwankwaso, I think twice. So he asked us, I remember, why did you write this book? And I was like, okay, you are a silent achiever. So the title says it all. So because he was doing so many things. Later I realized that, oh, this guy wanted to get some profile that he could use to argue to Nigerians and say, look, I could do this in Kano, so trust me for, to be your president or something. So Tony was the one that I worked with in that project. I had to work with one other writer because it was, I think we did that book in a couple of weeks. We had less than 2 months because we needed to mark that event in a symbolic way. I think there was something, maybe his 3rd year or 2nd year, I can't remember. So basically that was what happened. So Tony was qualified to hear what I was trying to do. Second nugget, tell somebody, but tell somebody qualified. So I had no problem telling Tony. Now, as the story continues, you'll be getting more nuggets. What happened was, like I said, 2014, I told Tony that, and then later I now realized that the best thing to do was something indigenous. Okay, so we had attempted world's largest cake. Because of the attempt, I got to know a lot about cakes and stuff, and Guinness World Records, because we were in contact with Guinness World Records, trying to know how their rules were and all of that, So I knew the rules about Guinness World Records. So I thought about world's largest cassava cake. Now this is another nugget. I didn't know at that point if there was anything like cassava cake. I only knew about cassava bread. Hello? Did you get this point? There was cassava bread. I knew about cassava bread because the government then was trying to, do something about cassava. Just sort of promoting cassava, if you like. They were just cassava this, cassava that. So cassava bread was what I knew about. And I wanted to do the world's largest cassava cake. This is the faith thing now. When you say you want to do something, you don't need to know if it is even possible. Because sometimes knowing it is impossible can actually affect your faith. For example, 50 years ago or 70 years ago, if somebody had said he wanted to go to the moon, I don't know how long ago men went to the moon, but if before men went to the moon, if somebody had said he wants to go to the moon, somebody would have said, a scientist, an engineer would have told him, it's not possible, think of something else. So I didn't even know that there was anything like cassava cake. I just thought that, because it is what it is, maybe it can be used for cake. So I had to even do research. Starting from my reference point of cassava bread, I had to find out, how do you even, was there even cassava cake? I started finding out. I remember I got in touch with a friend of mine because I'm a writing consultant. I had met this guy. He used to be a journalist. He used to write for Complete Football. I don't know if you know Complete Football. There's this magazine, football magazine. I don't know if they are still in the market. So he used to write for Complete Football. He wanted to write his own book on football. So I edited that book. That's how I got to know this guy. I knew that because he's a journalist, he knew of a couple of things. His name is Victor. I called Victor. Victor, tell me about this cassava thing. So Victor was the one that told me about cassava farmers. I started from cassava farmers. So you see now, when you are finding out something about something, start from anywhere. You can start from anywhere. So Victor got me in touch with cassava farmers, and I asked them, what do you do with cassava? And so one thing led to the other, and I now got to know that there was such a thing called cassava cake. But you see, it wasn't that popular. It was just something that was new because the government was trying to do value addition to cassava to make it more valuable and all of that. To cut a long story short, I got in touch with a certain doctor, Dr. Okorua. This doctor was a food scientist. He had worked with Glaxo at some point, So he was a food scientist, and so he told me that he used to do trainings for people. He teaches people about cassava cake. I had to go to Lagos to meet this guy. I met him, we talked. Oh, so it's possible to do cassava cake. That's all I wanted to know. And I got to know that. Don't forget where I started from. I must do something to mark our centenary. Then the idea came. Then the idea that even came to me, I didn't even know how I was going to do it. This is to prove that where there is a will, there is a way. What are you thinking of right now? It doesn't matter. You want to have a PhD and you are still in primary school, it's okay. If Christ tarries, you can do it. So see how I progressed from I'm going to do something, then I thought of something, then I started finding out about it. So Dr. Okora convinced me that there's such a thing. But you see, Dr. Okora gave me some information also that was very helpful. He introduced me to the Federal Institute of Industrial Research, Oshodi, popularly called FIRO. Federal Institute of Industrial Research, Oshodi. That's FIIRO. So somehow I got to FIRO because I wanted to work with, I needed credibility. I had a company, but I was just me. I needed credibility. So I needed to work with a credible organization. Do you understand? So that I can easily get sponsors. So that when Nigerians hear that this company in collaboration with, with maybe a federal institute or something. So learn that also. When you want to do something bigger than you, try to, you can gain credibility through collaboration. Hello. It was just me and my company. I was just a writing consultant, doing my writing for my clients. If Nigerians must accept me, they needed something with name recognition. They needed something they can touch. And so I needed that. and I decided to use Federal Industrial, that's FIRO, Federal Institute of Industrial Research. I went to FIRO, and then there's another nugget here. Be bold. FIRO didn't know me. So I took the confidence from Dr. Okoroa that this thing could be done. You can approach anybody. As long as you are not planning to break the law, be bold. It is when you are planning to break the law that you should be scared. But if you are not planning to break the law, you can walk into any place and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do. So I found my way to FIRO, got to meet the DG, and she's a wonderful woman, Ms. Dr. Grace Elemo. She's no longer DG of FIRO now. I think she left 3 years ago. I convinced FIRO. I started from somewhere, of course. I didn't just go to approach the DG. So be bold. You can start from anywhere. You can start from the gate man. Hey, gate man, your name is Sule, right? Oh, I am from Abuja. You know, I want to see these people. Why do you want to see them? Oh, you know, the gate man could understand what you're saying, and then he will say, you know what? This is beyond me. Let me take you to this person. That was how it was. I walked my way, and I got to the DG of FIRO, and guess what? Of course, FIRO bought the idea. Let's do together. I'm initiating this, but let's work together. I didn't tell them I wanted credibility. Of course, I'm not stupid. I just told them, let's work together and make this thing happen. Oh, FIRO was excited because FIRO was established by the government to do such things, you know, to do research and all of that. So be bold. Don't be scared of anybody. If you know where Bill Gates' office is and you think you have a great idea, approach the gate man and tell him about it. The gate man could feel like, come, maybe I should take you to this person and not chase you away. This idea seems like, oh, break it down, let him understand. Look, I have an idea that your boss would like to hear. So I walked my way into FIRO, got a collaboration deal, and then we got sponsorship. It wasn't too big, but we got some kind of sponsorship, and so we did that. Now, I would like to say that I was trying to achieve something for Nigeria. It was a selfless project. Because I saw what the government was doing, the government was trying to encourage cassava. You see, when I did my research, I got to realize that Nigeria was the largest producer of cassava in the world. I was like, whoa, is that a fact? But you see, there was something else about cassava. If we must make money from cassava, it must be through value addition. That is the cake and the ethanol and the whatever, the bread, you know, not just cassava like that. If you must make money, it must be through value addition. So basically, I wanted to support the government, and it wasn't because I was necessarily supporting Goodluck Jonathan, who was president then. No, it was just pure patriotism. You know, in Nigeria, we are groomed to be patriotic. We are groomed to be patriotic. I schooled in Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria. So, in fact, in school, we sing the national anthem. Before we are old enough to know what it means, we sing it. We recite the pledge. Okay, I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful. Before I was old enough to decide that I want to do that, I was already doing it. So Nigeria, if you grew up in Nigeria, you are likely to be patriotic. So it was pure patriotism. It wasn't really. I'm not saying I don't like Jonathan, who was president then, but it wasn't about him. It was about my country. It was a patriotic project. I felt like if I did this, it was actually a Guinness World Record attempt. If I did this, and Guinness was able to give us a world record for baking the world's largest cassava cake, I'm sure people, we could use that for some positive media, because there was a lot of bad media at that time. I remember Boko Haram and stuff like that. So it was a patriotic project, just to balance the idea that I wasn't trying to support Goodluck Jonathan. In 2013, I had written a book that was critical of Jonathan, and have not written any other book that was critical of the president. I think the title was My Phlegmatic President. Although I tried to encourage the president, but even from the title, you could see that I had issues with the way he was going. I think I gave a copy of that book to Ruben Abati, who was the special advisor to media at that point to Jonathan. So I was just being patriotic. I had criticized the president in a book, not just hiding behind. My name was there. So the world's largest cassava cake project wasn't to support the president necessarily. It was just to support my country, because I was groomed, like I said, to be patriotic. The only country I know that sort of teaches its youth to hate the country right now, surprisingly, is the United States. In the United States, it is like a symbol of wisdom to say the Constitution is bad. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, let me not talk about the US, but that is the only country I know of right now where they are training their generation to hate the country, hate the values, hate the Constitution, hate everything about the US. I mean, I don't know why, but we here in Nigeria, let's say we are still fortunate. Children are groomed to love their country, to be patriotic. So it was just patriotism. Talking about the Guinness World Record, I have another nugget there. When you are trying to achieve something, you may hit brick walls, but innovate. Because Guinness World Record, for your information, refuse to refuse to cooperate with us in our attempt. Why? They said that they do not recognize cassava cake. Do you understand? Because when you want to do a Guinness World Record, you will apply. They will understand what you're doing. They will give you their rules. Then on the day of the attempt, they will send a representative that would monitor the process, because you could just do anything, and because of video editing these days, you could just so while I was interacting with Guinness World Record, I told them what we were trying to do. They said they did not recognize cassava cake. So there's a nugget there, because I didn't stop. I could have just gone, oh, this is so bad, Guinness, because it was a Guinness World Record attempt from the word go. And I told myself that, we're in the age of the internet. Guinness World Record refused to, should I say, approve our application to do that world record attempt, because they did not recognize cassava cake. They don't know it. Do you understand? It wasn't an international thing. So they would need to be convinced. So I said, you know what? I am going to go ahead, do this world's largest cassava cake, and the world will be forced to recognize it. So that is innovation. Because I didn't allow, Guinness World Record has credibility. But you can also gain credibility, especially because this is the age of the internet. Today, if you Google world's largest cassava cake, Nigeria will come up. You will see a picture of me, Namadi Sambo, who was vice president then, the minister, the DJ of Firo. You will see us cutting the cake. That was what I knew. I envisaged that. I knew that the internet was going to help us. So Guinness refused to give us approval. I knew that because we were in the age of the media, because we were in the information age, because we were in the age of the internet, we could do this thing and still gain what we wanted to gain. After all, what we wanted was notoriety. We wanted the noise. We wanted Nigeria had done this and done that. So that's what we wanted. By the way, when we eventually succeeded, Akinwumi Adesina, who is now the president of the World of Africa Development Bank, and I'm hearing rumors that he wants to run for president of Nigeria. This man was I think he was Minister of Agriculture at that point. He actually knew about it, and he tweeted. And Akinwumi Adesina is a popular guy, so he tweeted. He said Nigeria had baked the world's largest cassava cake. I'm sure so. It was picked up. In fact, let me tell you something. Dangote was interviewed by Aisha Sese of CNN about this world's largest cassava cake, and he said a few words. He just had to say something to save face. He said, yes, this was that. I think that was in 2010 when we were trying to do the world's largest cake. That's the cake proper then. He was interviewed and he said a few things. So I knew that we could gain our notoriety. We could still achieve our propaganda without Guinness. So when you are trying to do something, maybe you thought you wanted to do it with the World Bank, for example. Oh, the World Bank has credibility, If the World Bank refuses, you could go to you could use another entity. So, innovate. Talking about Akinwumi Adesina, there is another story behind him, because I tried to see him in 2014. That was when the government of Nigeria was trying to do a banquet to celebrate the centenary. So what I'm trying to tell you now is that I actually failed the first time I tried to do this thing. And there's a nugget there. When you are trying to do something and you fail, it may be because the time was wrong. That may just be the problem. So you can try again. So let me quickly give this piece. Because I knew, I heard that the government was trying to do a banquet to mark that 2014, the 1914 amalgamation. I think that banquet was done. It was a state banquet where you invite VIPs and I think it was done in January. I can't remember the month now. So I tried to get the world's largest cassava cake done for that banquet. It didn't work out. I went to see Akinwumi Adesina, and what he told his secretary to tell me that the time was too short. It wasn't going to be easy for them to put that kind of thing together. So that might have ended the dream. And I told myself that no, I can still do this thing. Since it is 2014, anytime in 2014 that you do something to mark the centenary, you could still tag that year, since it was 1914 to 2014. So I didn't give up, even though I couldn't meet up with the day the documents were signed, the amalgamation documents were signed. So I decided, okay, what do I do now? I think that was before I got in touch with Firo. I think so. I can't remember all the details now, but at some point, I now got an opportunity. You see, when you have faith, when there is a will, there is a way. That's the saying. And I'm trying to prove it through this story. I got to realize that Pharaoh was going to do what they call Technology Week. And Technology Week is a big event. The president of Nigeria was supposed to be there, President Goodluck Jonathan. He was eventually represented by Namadi Sambo. But you see, at the end of the day, I now sort of used that as a vehicle. I said, oh, this is the kind of event that we can use. So I related with Pharaoh and we decided that we were going to unveil the world's largest cassava cake during that Pharaoh Technology Week. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I am trying to tell you, listener, that when you have the will, the way will actually open up. This is something that many people need to understand. Most people that achieve great things, you need to know this from this story. They did not know, not all of them knew how they were going to achieve it. You need to know, this is one of the biggest secrets of achievements. That you can just choose to say something as difficult as I want to be governor of my state. You know, it takes a lot of factors to achieve that kind of thing because, but you can actually achieve it if that is what you want. I'm not necessarily a political person. Of course, everybody is political, but I'm just giving that example to show how difficult that kind of thing is. Or to say you want to be president. How do you know the factors that will come together? Do you know how many people are qualified to be president in your country? But I'm saying that even something as nebulous as that can be achieved. What you need to know is that people that achieve great things or whatever that is worth achieving, because greatness is not the issue, it's whatever you want. If what you want is to be a teacher, it's a great thing. So when I say achievement, it mustn't be that you want to be something quote unquote big. No, what is important to you is important to you. Some people just want to be caregivers. That is what they want in life. They want a system that will allow them to give care. They may not even know that what they need is to own an orphanage or to own a daycare. They may not even know it. They just know that they want to care for people. So sometimes you may have a vague idea of what you want to achieve. My point is this: whatever you want to achieve is worth achieving. But you don't need to figure out from the beginning how you will achieve it. I think that is the most important thing in my story. Because as it develops, I kept thinking out the solutions. I kept getting lucky breaks. One of the lucky breaks I told you is the Pharaoh Technology Week. Though I lost the banquet hall event, which will have been symbolic for the unveiling of the countdown of the world's largest cassava cake, I got Pharaoh Technology Week, which was even a big event. And it was going to take place right there in Pharaoh. And the president was the special guest of honor. I mean, how better can it get? So I got something equivalent to the state banquet that I missed. But there was a very big problem. For me, this was the most important problem I faced because it was going to damage the whole program. We had gotten sponsors. We had contracted bakers. They had started baking this 2-ton cake. 2 tons, 2,000 kilogram cassava cake. The recipe for this cake was developed by Pharaoh. It was Pharaoh food scientists that came up with the recipe. They had already started, because they had to start baking the cake before the day that the president was expected. Because you can't bake this cake in one day. So we had already started baking, piling them up and all of that. We needed permission from Pharaoh to set up. There was a tent because there was this field, and so there was different kinds of tents. So the president was going to be conducted. This tent was for this, so he will see what was there and all that. The Pharaoh DG appointed a certain woman. Let me call her Belinda. I don't want to give her real name. Let me call her Mrs. Belinda. So the Pharaoh DG appointed Mrs. Belinda as the chairperson of the Pharaoh Technology Week. Did you get the point? Mrs. Belinda had a reputation of being a difficult woman. Because I was in Pharaoh for several weeks. You don't do that kind of project without being in the vicinity. I was in Pharaoh. I was more like a staff of Pharaoh because, everybody, hey, Mr. What largest cake. I remember that the cake, as we're piling up the cake, we needed a forklift. The forklift that they use in warehouses. We needed a forklift, so it was a spectacle. Everybody in Pharaoh was just there looking at this massive cake and all that. Even the army, there's this army resettlement office, sort of like a barrack just close to Pharaoh. The army, the colonel, the big guys, they came to see what we were doing. So it was really a spectacle to see such a massive cake. So at some point, we needed permission to set up our tent. Mrs. Belinda had a reputation, like I told you, of being a very difficult woman. So I met Pharaoh DG. I had access to her, of course, because of what I was doing. So we need space. Oh, meet Mrs. Belinda. Now, Mrs. Belinda was somebody that like I said, she was difficult. So I tried to get to her. I wasn't getting to her. Now, the president was expected, I think, on a Tuesday. This event took place on a Tuesday. Because of the security arrangement for the president, you needed to you needed to know where you were going to set up and set up before a certain time, because after a certain time, the SSS and the military and everybody will not allow you come into a certain place anymore. You needed to set up and finish setting up and step back, so to speak. I tried to get to her. She was just very busy and everything, and she wouldn't listen to me. My bakers had told me that if we don't start setting up at a certain point, we will not be able to complete it. So now, how do we do this? Mrs. Belinda was not accessible. She was just very busy, going all over the place and all of that. I saw this world's largest cake project failing, because if she doesn't allow us to set up, the president will not unveil it. Everything will fail. Because it's a massive cake. You need to set it up somewhere. So the bakers needed permission to set up in a certain place, so that they will start piling up the cake and dressing it and all that. It will take several hours, maybe a full day to do that. To cut a long story short, I looked at Mrs. Belinda and I saw that this woman was going to be a problem to my project. This project I had worked on for so long. I had an idea. Where there is a will, there is a way. It came to play at that point. I was looking at this woman and she was acting tough and she was just moving around. People were following her, she was just doing things. And I told myself, how am I going to get through to this woman? A spirit told me that just stick with this woman, just keep following her. And I kept following this woman, and I was following her. I needed her to tell me, madam, I needed her to just point to this place. Okay, world's largest cake, this is your place. Because if she doesn't permit it, we can't set up there. Oh my goodness, you don't need to know the kind of stress I was under. My bakers were telling me, Mr. Joe, we need to set up now, because they knew when the president was coming. If we don't set up now, we can't complete this job. We can't do it. And they were even crying, some of them. They were like, Mr. Joe, I just ran away from them because they needed me to tell them, set up here. I kept following this woman. Where there is a will, there is a way. This project will not fail. I was given a staff of Pharaoh who was serving as my PA. His name is Bolaji, a very interesting guy. So, I had, as I was chasing this woman around, I didn't know how to get through to her. I had her saying, so how are they going to get Coca-Cola? How are they going to get Sprite and sort of all those kind of companies? I just walked up to her. I said, madam, I'm going to get you Coca-Cola. I'm going to get you any company you want. I didn't know how I was going to do this. And she said, you can do that? I said, yes, madam, don't worry. I'm going to get you Coca-Cola within hours. They're going to set up here. So she said, okay, please do that. And I withdrew from her and I met Bolaji. I said, Bolaji, I have just told Mrs. Belinda that we're going to get her Coca-Cola and all these companies. How do we do it? Bolaji, where is Coca-Cola office here? To cut a long story short, I went to Coca-Cola, I cut a deal with them, and they agreed that they were going to set up and supply basically free drinks. So, with my report from Coca-Cola, I now went to Mrs. Belinda's office to report that I had gotten Coca-Cola for her. That was when I was able to tell Mrs. Belinda that, madam, please give us a location for the world's largest cake. And that was where this woman was able to point out a place, and that was where we set up. And the vice president came, and we cut the world's largest cake, and that is history. That is my story. Where there is a will, there is a way.